Shields up, Paladins, and welcome to an Overwatch Hero Guide. As you can tell by the title of this video, I will be talking to you all about Mei and how I like to use this particular character. Mei is one of the many damage roll characters within Overwatch, as well as she has 250 health. Now with all this being said and done, let's go ahead and jump right on over to her weapon and her abilities. Now the first thing I'm going to talk about is her actual weapon and the primary fire of her weapon, which is called the Endothermic Blaster. Now the description of her primary fire is Mei's blaster unleashes a concentrated short-range stream of frost that damages, slows, and ultimately freezes enemies in place. So of course the type would be primary fire, aim type is a beam or projectile like. The damage is 55 per second or 2.75 per round. Movement speed is -20 at first, then -2.85% per tick, max at -70%. The projectile speed, of course, is 20 meters per second. Max range is 10 meters. Ammo is 120 rounds. Ammo usage is 20 rounds per second. Reload time is 1.5 seconds. Duration is 1 second for a slow effect, and then 1.3 seconds for a frozen. And of course, with this particular primary fire, you cannot get headshots with this weapon. Now, the first tick, whenever you are freezing somebody, will results in 20% progress towards the freeze. Also inflicts 20% slow effect onto that particular person or the group of people that you are trying to freeze. Then each subsequent tick increases this by 2.85%. So this will also increase the slow time of that as well by 2.85 every tick until it's eventually capped at 70%. At 100% or higher, the enemy will then freeze in progress. So then the very next tick freezes the target, therefore it will take a total of 31 rounds to order to freeze somebody. That is, again, that is if they're not using a shield or if they don't have a buff or anything like that. So if they don't have anything like that, it will take a total of 31 rounds to freeze somebody. And again, keep in mind, you have 120 rounds per magazine before you have to reload. Now, despite being changed to 20% in the 1.44 patch, Mei's weapon setting in custom games still say the minimum freeze is 30%. The slow effect lasts for 1 second after the last tick of damage was dealt, and this also pierces enemies. So do keep that in mind. Now, her secondary fire, or what is also called the icicle fire, the description of that can be Mei can also use her blaster to shoot icicle-like projectiles at medium range. So of course the aim type would be projectile. Damage is 75% or 75 rather. Spread angle is pinpoint. Projectile speed is 115 meters per second. Rate of fire is 1 shot per 0.8 seconds. Of course, you still have the 120 rounds per magazine. Ammo usage is 10 per shot. Reload time is 1.4 seconds, casting time is 0.4 seconds, and you can receive headshots with her secondary fire. Now, her first ability that we're going to get into is called her Cryo Freeze. Now, the description of this is Mei instantly surrounds herself with a block of thick ice. She heals and ignores damage while encased, but cannot move or use any of her other abilities. So the healing on this is 38.46 per second, or up to 150 overall. The duration is up to 4.25 seconds, and the cooldown is 12 seconds. Now the cooldown starts only after the effect wears off. This ability can be canceled prematurely if, for whatever reason, if maybe your team gets there and you've got enough health to re-engage back into the fight. There's many other different things, but you can cancel this particular move prematurely. Mei becomes completely invisible and is cleansed of all status effects, so that's the Orb of Discord or anything like that. She'll be cleansed of that, and then of course blocks line of sight and other collisions. So if a diva is trying to zoom by or anything like that, diva will hit you, and then, or if Reinhardt is trying to pin for you or for anything like that, he will then hit you or hit the cryo freeze effect instead of you as the player Mei. So now her next ability that we have is called Ice Wall. Now, of course, Mei generates an enormous ice wall that obstructs the line of sight, stops movement, and blocks attacks. Now, the health of this is a 400 per pillar. There's 5 pillars total. Max range is 35 meters. Area of effect is a 3 by 8 meter area. Duration is 5 seconds, or up to 5 seconds, and the cooldown is 13 seconds. Now, of course, this ability can be canceled prematurely by pressing the hotkey once more, whatever that might be if you're on PC or console. Before casting the Ice Wall's placement, the players from the player's line of sight can be toggled from perpendicular to parallel by pressing the hotkey once again. So, of course, if you're playing on PC, I think this one might be the letter E for PC players. For consoles, this would be L1, I want to say. L1 or R1, one of the two. And then, of course, the cooldown starts immediately, not when the ability ends or is cancelled. And finally, we're coming up on her ultimate ability, which is called Blizzard. So, the aim type is, of course, an arching projectile for the initial cast, and then it's an area effect for the Blizzard. But the description of this is, Mei deploys a weather modification drone that emits gusts of wind and snow in the wide area. Enemies caught in the blizzard are slowed down and take damage. Those who linger too long are frozen solid. So the damage is 20 per second, or up to 85 over the duration. Movement speed is negative 50% at first, then negative 20 per second. Max is negative 70. Projectile speed is 20 meters per second. Area of effect is a 10 meter radius. Casting time is a 0.5 seconds. That's simply just for the throw itself. Then the duration is 4.25 seconds. Of course, you cannot receive headshots with this ultimate, and the ultimate cost is 1,610 points. So, the first tick results in 50% progress towards the freeze. Also inflicts 50% slow effect. Then it continues at the rate of 20% per second. Also slows at a rate of 20 per second. The slow effect is capped at 70%. Of course, anything at 100% or higher will then freeze the particular opponent. Using the endothermic blaster primary fire greatly will speed up the freezing process. And of course, this will also pierce barriers, payloads, and an ice wall. So, that's pretty much Mei's abilities in a nutshell. Very, very straightforward character, I would say. Now, a couple things that for people that are trying to use Mei as in or people that are trying to get better with Mei, I would say she is a very, very, very strong fighter who excels in one-on-one fights. Simply, her freezing effect with the endothermic blaster will let her win over most heroes. That's people without using shields, as in Reinhardt, Orisa with her Fortify, and of course this will also include Sigma with his shield. Also Zarya with her bubble, just another character to throw out there. Icicle deals very, very heavy damage when used correctly, making her a threat at both short and long ranges. Ice Wall can be used as a trap to distract an enemy, as it has completely blocked the enemy's vision or split some of the enemies from the others, trying to split up the team, where your team can capitalize on that. Mei's Cryo Freeze creates a thick ice around herself, restoring her health and rendering her invulnerable, but also allowing her to play as a semi-tank, if you will. Blizzard is a very strong ultimate, I would say, in my personal opinion. Again, it's not one of those make or break ultimates, as in McCree or Reaper or Soldier for that max, but it is able to turn the tide of the battle whenever it's used correctly. Not being a true tank, Mei can still be out damaged and killed easily. Her primary fire deals very, very little damage and needs to land several hits to be for you to fully freeze the target. Due to the lack of raw killing power and mobility tools, playing Mei will be very, very challenging. But if you can use her effectively, not play too strong with her, or not be at not be in front of your tanks, but also not being back with your healers. You gotta have to play that happy medium ground with Mei, and once you do that, Mei will be a very, very highly aggressive player. I know I use Mei a lot, and I enjoy playing as Mei. One of the things is that she can turn the tide of a battle pretty quickly. If you got a lot of people that are playing aggressive, or the enemy team is playing aggressive, you can use Mei to kind of slow them down, if you will. No pun intended there, but of course you can also, kind of slow them down, pinpoint maybe some of the DPS. What I like to do as Mei is I specifically like to pinpoint the tanks. If there's a Diva or a Reinhardt, anybody like that, I specifically like to pinpoint them. Or if I can get the chance, if I can get behind them, of course, then I'll attack their healers by freezing them and then doing the second fire, or the secondary fire, which is the icicle. And that usually will kill them if you're quick enough. Of course, if you're not, then you might want to throw out a melee real quick. Like as soon as you hit the icicle, boom, hit the melee, and that should kill them. But that's one of the things with Mei that I would say is that you have to find that happy medium, or try to flank around, if you will. There's a lot of good Meis out there. I've seen a lot of decent Meis, as a matter of fact. But that would be one of the things that I would say to definitely help you is if you're trying to learn Mei, is to find that happy medium. And once you do, you'll be a very, very good Mei player. Alright, so hopefully I answered a lot of questions, comments, and concerns about Mei. If I did, definitely drop a comment down below. If I didn't, definitely leave a comment as well, saying, hey, you forgot to mention this, that, or the other thing. And as always, guys, I will see you in the next video.